It's a cold 26-degree day at Lou Howard Field, but temperatures are hot. As for the first time since March 2020, high school sports are back. Winter track, generally indoors, meets the elements as the Amityville Warriors welcome in the Miller Place Panthers for a winter weather track meet. Sports are back, and we have all the coverage right here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network, and our coverage starts right now. I'm Matt Grice, joined by Mr. Paul Cimino, as we welcome you in without spectators. The first match for track since last winter, the first sporting event for Amityville High School since last March 2020. Thank you so much for joining us here on this beautiful but chilly Sunday morning as we have the Warriors hosting the Miller Place Panthers. Right now, we have several events taking place around the track, and we will be panning our cameras around to try to show you as much of this as possible. The shot put is taking place off to our side, which we can't really see from our vantage point, but we will get you results when we can. The 1600 just took place, and we're hoping to get a few student athletes up here to talk to about their events today. But regardless of what goes on, we are just super excited to be back with you, back on the air, bringing sports back into the fold. A very exciting day, as many of us were not sure if this day would actually happen. So let's just recap a little bit. Last year, the spring sports season canceled by COVID-19, as well as the end of the winter season, which really hurt the Amityville Warriors boys basketball team as they looked poised to go on a deep run to a possible state championship. Winter track did have their season last year, but those athletes have not competed since. And in fact, the winter season has only allowed winter track to take place. But as mentioned, it is taking place outdoors. Generally, this is an indoor season because of the weather, but it shouldn't have that much of an effect. These are young kids. They're stretching and getting loose inside the school building in the gym, and then when it's their time to run their event, they're coming out here, running their event, and then going back inside. A bit unconventional from the way things are usually done, but such is the world here between 2020 and 2021 due to the COVID pandemic. So the last time a spring season took place was back in 2019, and the Amityville Warriors, well, they were retooling a little bit under head coach Coach Hawkins and assistant coach Jerry Pollock, and did not have their best season, finishing 4th overall, 2-3 in the league in their 5 meets, and actually one match win behind Miller Place, who finished 3-2. That's the school the Warriors are hosting here today. But Coach Hawkins has been doing this a very long time, and it's a cold 26 degrees out here at Lou Howard Field, but temperatures are hot as for the first time since March 2020. High school sports are back. Winter track, generally indoors, meets the elements as the Amityville Warriors welcome in the Miller Place Panthers for a winter weather track meet. Sports are back, and we have all the coverage right here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network, and we're bringing it to you live right now. I'm Matt Grice, joined by Paul Cimino behind the scenes. First of all, we want to apologize for the technical difficulties we've been having this morning, but hey, it's been a weird year and a half with COVID-19, canceling a lot of events, and we are just thrilled to be here and back with you on the air. The only one of the sports allowed to take place so far, winter track around New York State, and it's finally happening today. Miller Place comes in having gone against Islip a week ago, the Amityville Warriors, they're competing for the first time in over a year, and it should be a lot of fun. Again, thanks so much for spending your Sunday morning with us here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network. Again, I'm Matt Grice here from Lou Howard Field, as we are going to be showing you shots of all the different events throughout the morning and early afternoon here at Lou Howard Field. Right now, taking place along the side, the one area where our cameras cannot get to is the shot put. We've already had the 1,600-meter race, and we have plenty more to get to. So even though we're a little late getting on the air because of technical difficulties, stick with us because there's plenty of races to be had. We will also bring some students up here after their events and hopefully get to chat with them about the excitement of competing and as well as how they did today and what it's been like for them out there on the track. So, to recap, Amityville Track has not participated since last winter as their spring season was canceled due to COVID-19. All the spring sports across New York State were canceled due to the virus, and the end of the winter sports season was canceled as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other sports here at Amityville as the afternoon progresses, especially the basketball team that had their run to a second state championship canceled because of COVID-19. But one of their key athletes, senior Miles Goddard, he's here today and he's running track, something he wouldn't normally be able to do. But because of the strange schedules that we're having, well, this year he's going to get to do it. Hopefully, he'll have an opportunity to play basketball as well. And we will talk about that in just a little while of some of the news coming down from New York State about what sports we may be able to expect to see at some point during this school year. So let's take a look at what the Warriors did last time they had a spring track season. Now, Amityville is coached by Coach Hawkins and the assistant coach Jerry Pollack. They've been doing this a very long time. They're some of the best that there are out there on Long Island in New York State and beyond. But 2 springs ago, I should say, 2019, the last time the Warriors spring track team got to compete, they were in a bit of a retooling mode as a lot of key seniors graduated the year prior. And Amityville finished in League 6 in 4th place with a 2-3 meet record. They actually finished 1 win behind Miller Place. Miller Place finished 3rd with a 3-2 record. West Hampton was the best school that year, finishing 5-0. This year, however, Coach Hawkins thinks his guys are ready to go. They should be retooled. He's excited, and certainly the expectations are back as well based on, no pun intended, the track record of this program. But let's take a look at the upcoming schedule for the Warriors as we show you some of the footage of the events taking place here. So right now, the Warriors taking on the Panthers, but they will be back on January 30th as they have another 11 a.m. start hosting Bayport Blue Point. Then another week will go by and Amityville gets its first road meet as they go to Mount Sinai on the 7th of February for an 11 a.m. start. Then on February 13th, another 11 a.m. start, Amityville welcomes in Islip. And then they will finish off their season on February 27th. There's a week break in there because of the President's Week, the holiday break. But Amityville will finish off their season on the road at Shoreham Wading River for an 11 a.m. start on February 27th. And hopefully team success will be high, and there'll be a bunch of individuals as well who have a lot of success. Also going on right now, and if we can get updates, we will provide that to you. The Lady Warriors are in action as they have the opposite schedule of the boys' winter track team. The Lady Warriors right now are at Miller Place. Then on January 30th, they will be at Bayport Blue Point. On February 7th, the Lady Warriors get their first home track meet of the season as they will host Mount Sinai. Then they are back on the road in Islip on February 13th for an 11 a.m. start in Islip. And finally, they will end their season here at Amityville Lou Howard Field on February 27th as they welcome in Shoreham Wading River for an 11 a.m. start. And again, if we can get any updates for you from that matchup, we will let you know. Again, thank you so much for joining us here today. We are all so excited to be able to bring you some sports once again. Hopefully, there will be a lot more to come. But now it's time to talk a little bit about this season and the expectations of the Amityville Warriors boys track team. And who better to do that than to hear it from Coach Reynolds Hawkins himself, as a little while ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with Coach Hawkins and get his thoughts on today, the preparation for today, and the upcoming season. Sitting down with head coach of the Amityville track team, Coach Reynolds Hawkins. Coach, thank you so much for taking a few minutes of your time. First of all, this has got to be an exciting moment for you after having your spring season last year canceled due to COVID to finally get an opportunity to go out there and compete.
It is, and it's good for the kids. It's good for the kids to be able to participate in something now since they've been shut down for pretty much 9 months.
Coach, now, because you've been shut down for so long and you've been part of this program for many, many years, and I know between winter track and spring track, you're always recruiting, you're always practicing, you're always coaching. So how might this layoff impact the preparedness of your athletes to be able to go out there and compete at the highest level today?
Well, fortunately, these are young kids, so it doesn't really take too much time for them to get prepared. The unfortunate thing with this is that since the school was closed for 2 weeks when the season had officially started for Suffolk County, we are a good 2 weeks behind everybody else. So the team we're going against now, this is their second meet with. This is only our first.
Coach, this is obviously different than how you'd prepare for a normal season. How have you been able to get these players ready for this season, which may be a little unconventional from what you've done in the past?
6-7 days straight of practice to be ready for this.
That's pretty intense. Now, this is winter season. Usually you're running around inside, but because of COVID, we're outside. It's 26 degrees right now. Does that make a difference? How do you have your athletes adjust to the weather conditions?
No, normally we still practice outside. Our meets are inside, but we practice outside as best we can. So far this season, we've only been inside 1 day. And the kids and the athletes have been prepared and be ready. Every single time we said, let's go outside, there've been no complaints or arguing.
So we have a long history here at Amityville High School of a successful track program. Can you just speak a few minutes about what events are the ones that stand out to you the most, that you have the most pride in, that you feel these are the ones that your Amityville athletes should be winning every time?
Field events. Field events. Amityville's got a history of sprinters and all, but I'm going to tell you, field events has been the one. The shot put, the jumps, those have been the strengths of Amityville.
Who are some of your key leaders that are coming back, your veterans, maybe juniors and seniors this year that you're going to be leaning on a lot, especially given that this is an unconventional season?
Brandon Dennis in the shot put, he finished up last year as a sophomore, as the number 3 sophomore in the United States. Jarrell Fisher, who was the number 1 seeded triple jumper in New York State, number 5 in the nation. And Devoni, who was about number 3 sprinter indoors last season in 55.
And of course, every year you're getting an influx of new talent. Again, it's been such a short practice season leading up to today's events against Miller Place. But can you speak to some of your young stars, people coming in that you see big things for moving forward in the future?
It's really hard to see right now. I'm hoping that this meet's going to show and showcase some of these kids. Just being able to go through practice, we haven't really been able to identify who's been doing what yet.
And finally, Coach, what are your keys to walking away with a victory today?
Amityville, just being Amityville.
Simple enough, Coach. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, and best of luck. All right, you heard it from Coach Hawkins himself. An exciting day. He's not afraid of the weather. He's not afraid of the lack of practice. He believes that his guys are ready to go. And now we have a very special guest joining us right now, Devoni Mclennan, who just won the 55, and he joins us here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network. Devoni, first of all, thank you for joining us. Second of all, congratulations. How exciting is it for you to be back out here competing after such a long layoff?
It's good. It's better than nothing because I didn't think we were going to have a season at all. So, yeah, it's better than nothing.
Now, when did you first find out that you were going to get a chance to compete?
In the summer, our coach would tell us he doesn't know yet, so we just got to keep training just in case. And that's what we did.
So for you personally, what has that process been like? How difficult was it, or not difficult, for you to train kind of on your own without having the structure of being with your coach and your teammates?
It was hard because I didn't really have motivation to keep doing it, but now I do. So yeah, I just gotta keep training and do better.
Now, does this have a different feel? Obviously, the winter track season is usually indoors, but here you are outside competing. Does it matter? Does it change the way you prepare or run an event, or is track track?
No, it's different. Because the races we do indoors way different from what we do outdoor. So the atmosphere is different. I just got to get used to it and adapt.
For you personally, would you say you prefer the indoors or the outdoors?
I prefer indoors because it's more warmer, but this will do.
Have you had to prepare differently? Obviously, you don't want to pull a hamstring or anything. How do you prepare your body to come out here in 30-degree weather and compete?
He's got to stretch. I got to stretch, make sure my body's right, and eat good.
So you're not done today. You just ran the 55 and you won. You have a relay coming up a little later. Which event would you say is your strongest event? Which event would you say is your favorite event?
The 55, because it's the shortest race. And yeah, that's my favorite race. I prefer.
So you consider yourself more of a sprinter then?
Yeah.
As today continues to unfold, you'll get through today and you guys are going to move on. What do you think the expectation is going to be for this team as you get through the season? I know you had a bit of a rebuild, losing a couple key players a few years ago. Do you feel like you guys are ready to be one of the best teams again?
Yeah, we do. We just need to work together as a team and get better as a unit.
Well, I wish you all the luck and congratulations on your first victory. Good luck this afternoon and for the rest of the season. And thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today.
No problem.
Devoni Mclennan, winner of the 55. And he's got more work to do. So do we right here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network. But again, thank you so much for joining us as it's a really exciting, cold but thrilling January morning, Sunday morning as sports are back. Will the winter season get a chance to take place with the other sports? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Some good news coming down from the state just a few days ago regarding wrestling and basketball. So stay tuned for that information. But just to update you on what's going on, again, as the athletes compete, they finish up here. They go back inside and wait, keep their bodies warm, keep themselves stretched out. Things are done very differently than they usually are. But continuing to our left, and as we say, we apologize. Our cameras can't quite get over there, but the shot put is still going on. We're going to see some more sprints and some of the long-distance runs coming up shortly, and we will bring you results as we find out about them. But that was great. Devoni Mclennan, a socially distanced interview. We're so glad we were able to do that. You heard from Coach Hawkins a little while ago, and we're just going to keep going. We're going to have a good time here. You see the athletes trying to stay warm as they finish their activities and are moving off the field to our right now. And very shortly, we should see a few more events out here. But I think the feeling is mutual around everybody, whether it's Miller Place, the Amityville athletes, the coaches, or anyone else that's here today or maybe watching on the Amityville Broadcasting Network. And it's a combination of relief and excitement that here we are. We have sports again, and a lot of us weren't sure if this was going to happen or not. Will it happen for basketball? Will it happen for wrestling? And will the spring teams get a chance to have their first season since 2019? Well, we have a little preview for that in just a moment, but we're going to step aside just a minute here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network, but don't go anywhere as we have so much more coverage for you of the first event of Amityville sports since March of 2020 right here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Welcome back to Lou Howard Field here on the campus of Amityville Memorial High School. Matt Grice, Paul Cimino behind the scenes doing all the hard work as we bring you the first sporting event in almost a year. We have a race taking place right now as they go on the track. We'll get you more information and updates and winners as we go, but you can see them sprinting right by the Lou Howard scoreboard sign as they're going from right to left across your screen and across us right here. Hopefully we'll get a few more interviews as we go on as well. But before we went to commercial break, we teased some upcoming information regarding the possible spring and winter sports coming back. And that actually is great news, as New York State announced just the other day that they are giving the green light for a February 1st start date for both boys and girls basketball and wrestling. Now, what does that mean for Amityville High School? Well, this is a state green light, meaning it is still up to the individual sections to determine whether or not they feel it's safe enough to have a season. There are 11 sections altogether in New York State, and Amityville competes as part of Section 11, which incorporates all of Suffolk County, New York. So Suffolk County has to give the ultimate go-ahead, but at the same time, they want to make sure everything is safe. And if it is, we may actually have a basketball and wrestling season starting in just a few weeks. Now, what is interesting about the way they are doing things is that if you are an athlete that is a multiple season athlete, you may have a bit of a conflict. And I'll give you a good example. So Miles Goddard, who was a star basketball player here at Amityville High School, a former state champion. Very disappointing to see his basketball season cut short last year as the Warriors were making a strong run towards another state championship. He's running winter track right now because, well, they didn't know if there would be a basketball season. But if basketball does start in a week, he's going to be playing basketball. That's his number one. So it's good that he's keeping himself in shape, but a lot of athletes, not just him, are going to have to pick and choose what they're going to do. Now, is that really that important when we weren't sure if we were going to have anything? I think most of these athletes are probably thrilled just based on the fact that they are getting to compete in their sports again. So if Section 11 gives the green light and New York State stands by their plan to have a season starting on February 1st, what would that season look like? Well, we're not totally sure at this point, but the early rumors that are coming out is it would probably be a 3-week season, which really isn't much. Remember, basketball usually starts in December, and it goes until February when the playoffs begin and can actually run through March, which is when everything got shut down last year. So 3 weeks would be very short. What does that mean for playoffs? What does it mean for county championships or state championships? Unfortunately, it's probably not looking good right now to be able to do all of that, but I'm sure if you talk to many of these athletes and coaches, they would be thrilled just to have the opportunity to compete. We'll have to wait and see what that ends up looking like, but if that season were to take place, it would be over before March. And the reason for that, March 1st is supposed to be the start of the fall sports season. I have to pause and think about that for a second because it's a little strange to say that March is when the fall sports right now are slated to begin. So that's going to include football, soccer for both boys and girls, tennis, volleyball. And if that is able to take place, there will be a modified season March 1st, probably be around 6 weeks. Again, the way the playoffs and everything are going to look, we're just not sure yet at this point. But those athletes, those coaches, they're anxious to get out there. Just so you know, checking if you want to keep up to date on scheduling information, you can go to the Section 11 website. It's sectionxi.org, and that has all the scheduling information. At this point, there is nothing posted in regards to a basketball or a wrestling season. So hopefully that will be thrown together very soon, and it's going to have to be, as if it does get started, it's starting in a week. But if the fall season is able to take place, then when that season ends, we will start a late and modified shortened spring season. And this is the season that is probably the one you want to get in more than anything else. And here is why. Remember, if you're a spring sport athlete, and for Amityville, we're talking about spring track, we're talking about baseball, softball, girls JV lacrosse, which is a brand new program, a program that started with a bang and was really looking forward to their second season when they were shut down last year. These athletes did not get to have any part of their season last year at all. So if you were a junior last year and you don't get to play this year, you're going to lose out on your last 2 years. And for everybody else, you're potentially losing out on 2 years of eligibility for playing your high school sports. So fingers crossed, we're all hoping for the same thing here, that we will be able to get these seasons going, especially the spring season. And there's a lot of excitement, a lot of expectations. And for the students, I'm sure they just want to get out there and have the opportunity to once again compete. Good morning again, and thank you for spending your Sunday morning here with us on the Amityville Broadcasting Network. I'm Matt Grice, Paul Cimino behind the scenes as we bring you footage of the first boys winter indoor track event of the year. And if you're watching, obviously we are not indoors. It's rather cold, but due to COVID, we are outside to make sure everybody's safe and practicing social distancing. The rules are as follows. You come out, you run your event, you go back inside the gym, stay socially distanced, stay warm, stay loose. If you're doing multiple events, you come out again. So some of the events we've already had for you today. Early on, we started the shot put has since wrapped up, and we will get you results as soon as we can. But we had the 1600, we had the 55 that went on, and we had the long jump as well. So now we're waiting for some of the longer races to take place, some of the sprints. Looks like over here 2 hours left. An event should be taking place rather shortly, and we'll bring you full coverage of that. Hopefully get a few more interviews for you as well. You can see they're getting ready to start, and they're off. Three players racing around the track right now. Heading towards the scoreboard as they take the first turn. Pretty close right now. Miller Place starting to pull away a little bit here. Amityville falling back. We'll have to see if there's a final push towards the end. And that's it. Now Miller Place will take the win on that race. As another one gets set to go. And I think we're in the thick of it now. Things are going to start moving a little quicker here. All right, another event looking to get started here to our left. Amityville wearing their full sweats. You need it on a day like today. It's really important to keep your body warm. That's something that all the coaches would talk about. If you're running, if you're sprinting outside, you have to make sure that you're nice and loose, because the last thing you want after not competing for a while is to pull a muscle. So we have our sprint underway here. Amityville jumps out to a big early lead. Around the turn. Miller Place in second, followed by another Warrior trailing behind. And they cross the finish line. So Amityville wins this race Miller Place has a second place finish, and Amityville also comes in third for the race. Back to our left here at the track, another race getting set to start as the athletes are lining up. The event's slated to go off today, and we've already had a couple. We mentioned the 1600, the 55, the 1000, the 600, the 300. Then some of the big guys are coming in. 3200 meter dash. Then the relays, the 4x400, the 4x200, and the 4x800. And the 4x800 looks like that will cap the day. So plenty of more action here as we get set for another race to take off. 2 members of Miller Place, 1 Warrior, and they're off. Coming around the first turn, Miller Place out to an early lead. Amityville trailing behind as they approach the second turn. Miller Place opening up a very large lead as Amityville falls further behind. Coming out of the second turn into the final stretch. This one's not going to be close. And that'll do it. And you can see in the far right, some of the athletes heading back inside again. Usually we have a situation where you're out here, the whole team, you're supporting your teammates even when it's not your turn to compete. But because of COVID restrictions, everyone goes inside until it's their turn to come out here and compete, just to maintain social distancing and to keep things safe. One more heat coming up. 2 runners are being asked for. We're waiting for those 2 runners to make their way to the starting line. It'll just be 2 athletes from Miller Place competing in this event, and they're off. Now remember, you're competing against everybody else, but you're also competing against yourself because time matters. So you can have an individual victory. You can also have a school victory if you win the most events. But ultimately, at the end of the season, generally in a normal school year without COVID, your top performers in the different events then potentially get the opportunity to go compete for counties and states. And that's really all about the time. Miller Place coming around the second quarter turn in the home stretch. So far today, not a lot of close races. You have to wonder how much of a factor that is because of it being so cold out, quick start to the season, maybe some younger athletes competing for the first time. All of our winners so far have been winners by a pretty wide margin, as another group of athletes are making their way out of the school and onto the field. So we're having a bit of a switch right now. And then we should be moving on to another event. So we'll continue to showcase these events. We appreciate you spending your Sunday morning and early afternoon here with us on the Amityville Broadcasting Network. And we're thrilled to be back broadcasting sports. So while we get ready for the next event to take place, we're going to step aside for a minute here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment.
Si está enfermo con el COVID-19 o cree que podría haberlo contraído, tome medidas para ayudar a proteger a las personas para que no se enfermen. Quédese en casa, excepto para buscar atención médica. Llame al médico antes de ir. Apártese de las demás personas que vivan con usted. Use una mascarilla para proteger a los demás. Cúbrase la nariz y la boca con un pañuelo desechable cuando tosa o estornude y lávese las manos inmediatamente. Evite compartir artículos con otras personas de su casa. Esto incluye toallas y sábanas, por ejemplo. Asegúrese de que los platos se laven en agua caliente o en la lavadora automática de platos antes de que alguien más los use. Preste atención a cómo se siente. Si empieza a tener dificultad para respirar o está preocupado por su salud, llame al médico. Para más información visite cdc.gov/coronavirus-es.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope, furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Welcome back to Lou Howard Field on the campus of Amityville Memorial High School as our coverage continues of the first sporting event in almost a year. It's winter track. It's the Amityville Warriors against the Miller Place Panthers, and we brought you the long jump, the shot put. We've had some sprints. We had a winner in the 55, Devoni Mclennan, victory as he gets set to compete in a relay later on. And the next round of athletes are now out here. They're stretching and they're getting ready to go. Matt Grice, Paul Cimino here with you. Again, thank you so much for spending your Sunday morning with us here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network. We hope to bring you a few more interviews as we go on here. You got a few of these athletes up here, socially distanced, of course. But we are thrilled to be here. A little while ago, we broke the news that it looks like there is a good chance that the winter sports, other than track, and we're talking about basketball and wrestling, may take place. Wrestling is the toughest one to me as to how they would do that in terms of social distancing. And I haven't seen any guidelines put out there yet as to how that's going to go. But I would imagine probably every athlete before competing would have to get tested because of the close proximity of the competitors. Basketball, not as bad, but kind of a similar situation. You know, basketball can be a pretty aggressive sport. We talked a little bit about the boys basketball team before, and I think we should spend some time focusing on the Amityville girls team also. Last season, that team was stocked with some really top-heavy good seniors, and they lost their a really large chunk of their star talent. So this year, it's a team that's going to be retooling a little bit. But even though they didn't make the playoffs last year, they got so much better. They competed really well game in and game out. And it should be exciting to see what they can do. So fingers crossed that they have the opportunity to compete this season. And same thing with wrestling. Now, wrestling is kind of like track. It's an individual sport. You have a team competition. A team can win, but it really, at the end of the day, when it comes to county championships and state championships, it's up to the individual performer. Coach Greg McCoy, I'm sure he's really excited at the news that he might have a chance to get his season underway. I don't want to get everybody's hopes up too much. I'm a little, I don't want to say skeptical, but maybe a little bit curious as to how it is that, especially with wrestling, they would be able to do that. But if it does happen, I'm sure the students are going to be thrilled to be out there competing again. As we see today, you look around us, everybody's having a great time. You know, you want to win, you work really hard to get to where you're at. But I'm sure when today is over, win or lose, a lot of these student athletes are just going to be grateful that they had the opportunity to get back out there. It'll be curious to see, especially for Amityville, how they bounce back from this. Now, Coach Hawkins mentioned early on that even though they weren't allowed to practice for the first 2 weeks of January due to the fact that Amityville was shut down in a remote situation because of COVID-19, he's had them out there 7 days in a row. And the instructions were simple. You need to work hard in the offseason to make sure that when you get the call, if you get the call, you're ready to go. Well, the call has been made, and the Warriors are out here competing hard today. But between this being the first event in a long time and it being done under such cold conditions, you have to wonder the impact that may have on Amityville moving forward when it comes to their meet next weekend, because I'm sure starting tomorrow, it's going to be right outside again practicing to get ready for that meet. Miller Place came in, we mentioned they went against Islip last week, so for them, this is that second round to see where they're at. But they did have those extra 2 weeks to practice in preparation for coming here against the Warriors today. You can see on the far side of the field, Amityville looks like they're ready to go with the next event. Miller Place is huddling up to the left of them. One of the things that are interesting is the athletes are running with their masks on. And if we can get another athlete up here, that's going to be one of the questions I want to ask, because that has to be difficult. And I know we all have to wear masks. It's so important to make sure that we're doing our part to prevent the spread of COVID as much as possible. But sometimes it can be difficult to breathe in those masks. And sprinting around a track in freezing cold weather, I wonder the impact that these masks may have on these athletes. So the 4x2 is coming up. That's what both sides are getting ready for. So as both sides get ready for the 4x2, which is a sprint, not all the way around. It's about say quarter way around the track. Half a lap around the track, 4x2. So this is a chance for the sprinters to get out there. Now, Coach Hawkins talked about sprinters in our pregame interview, and what was interesting was he mentioned how field events to him are the strength of Amityville. That's the area where he feels they should be better than everybody else. But at the same time, he said that because he said Amityville has a history of having great sprinters, and he just kind of expects that to happen. So the expectations are high in the sprint area, and we'll have to see again how the quick turnaround time to get the season going, as well as the cold weather, impacts the runners on both sides and their ability to get around this track. But halfway around the track, it's a sprint. It's coming up in just a moment as you see the athletes continuing to line up and get themselves set on the far side of the field. Another group walking over to the near side as they prepare for their next event, and everybody wearing a mask. No fans in attendance here today. That will be the protocol moving forward, whether it's track or if the other sports do in fact get to take place, which is why we're here. And we really appreciate you giving us a chance to bring these broadcasts and these events into your home. So we have two separate groups that are lining up ready to go. And they're about to take off. Remember, they line up in different spots because the curve of the track would give you an advantage if you all lined up at the same spot. So even though they're spread apart, they are running the same distance. And they're off. 4x2 is underway. Athletes are rounding the first corner. Amityville trying to take the lead. Coming out of the turn, it's neck and neck. Down the stretch. Warriors falling behind. Miller Place taking the lead, couple steps. And the batons are handed off and the race continues. Amityville able to jump in front now. So important on these relays is the handoff. It's not just all about speed. Amityville building a big lead as they round the second quarter turn. Far side of the track. Amityville starting to slow down. Miller Place catching up. And the next handoff. Far side of the track. Once again, Amityville, a boost of speed. Rounding the corner. Amityville building a very nice lead here. 50-foot lead. Trying to finish up strong. Here comes the next handoff. Now Amityville way out in front. Miller Place falling behind, trying to catch up. Batons are handed off. But Amityville has a full quarter turn lead over Miller Place. And the 4x2 is over. Amityville gets the victory. Now remember, it's still important to keep going because your individual times matter, so Miller Place is going to finish strong. That was a really good race for Amityville. They started off a little bit behind, but the first handoff of the batons, Amityville was able to take off. They ran out of gas at the end there. Miller Place caught up. And then Amityville just busted out of the gate after the third handoff and never looked back. So the Warriors get the victory in the 4x2, showcasing their speed regardless of the elements out here today. And now we get set for the next event. So as both sides get ready for the next event, we are going to step aside and take a quick break as we continue to bring you images here of the first winter track event outside because of COVID of 2020-2021. We're in 2021 right now, even though it's technically the 2020-2021 school year. No sport took place in the entire state of New York since last March until right now. And they're out here competing and adjusting to all the protocols and doing everything they need to do. No complaining, just out here having a good time, excited to be out here getting a chance to showcase their talents. So, as the athletes and the coaching staff sort through everything and get themselves geared up for the next event, we will step aside for a moment, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network.
If you are sick with COVID-19 or think you might have it, take steps to help protect other people from getting sick. Stay home except to get medical care. Call the doctor before visiting. Separate yourself from others who live with you. Wear a mask to protect others. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue and clean your hands right away. Avoid sharing items with other people in your home. This includes things like towels and bedding. Be sure dishes are washed in hot water or the dishwasher before anyone else uses them. Stay aware of how you feel. If you start to have difficulty breathing, or if you're worried about your health, call your doctor. For more tips, visit cdc.gov.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope, furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
And we're back here at Lou Howard Field on the campus of Amityville Memorial High School. The first sporting event since COVID shut down the world last March. The Warriors welcome in the Miller Place Panthers. We've been bringing you track and field events all morning long. We just had the 4x2. Those athletes are now moving back inside as they prepare to warm up and stretch, and for some of them get ready for another event. We'll try to bring you some exclusive interviews with some of the athletes in just a little bit. But right now, the coaching staff and the players are sorting through and getting themselves ready for the next event. Matt Grice, Paul Cimino here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network. We're thrilled to be back. We're thrilled to be bringing you sports, and we are very happy that you are joining us here this Sunday morning. The next event is just getting ready to take off as we see people on the far side of the field getting ready for their race, and they're off. 2 student athletes on Miller Place, 1 on Amityville. Around the first turn. Pretty tight race so far. As we have another relay. The handoff won't be until the athletes make it all the way around the track one time, one complete lap. Approaching the second turn, still pretty tight. And they're approaching the end of the first lap. Very different approach between sprints and races where you have to take multiple laps. You have to pace yourself, otherwise you will not make it. And that's really what differentiates a sprinter versus a distance runner. A sprinter, not as focused on cardio, more focused on full energy, 100% all in one shot. But when you're doing these marathon races where you're doing 1,600, during 3,200, where you're running further and further distances, you have to be able to pace yourself so you can make it all the way around. Amityville falling a little bit behind right now, but as we've seen before, that doesn't mean much. Save a little energy for your final push. And also, because it's a relay, there'll be a handoff, so you'll get a fresh set in just a moment. Rounding the far right turn, and in the home stretch of the second lap, on the far side of the field, 2 Miller Place athletes in front, Amityville trailing, but still pretty close race right now. Now Miller Place starting to pull away a little bit, putting on a little burst of speed at the end here. And the handoff. Amityville has some catching up to do. Miller Place building a bigger lead as their first athletes going around the far turn. Amityville just entering the turn right now. Something you're probably not used to seeing. Runners running in sweatpants with hoods on, and certainly not used to seeing the masks on the face, but because of COVID, we have to make sure everybody's safe. Miller Place entering the second turn. Amityville trails behind. Miller Place enters the stretch of the first lap. Now Amityville joins them. Miller Place continues to widen their lead. On to the second lap. Amityville about 150 feet behind as Miller Place rounds the turn. Coming out of the turn, it's still Miller Place in front. Amityville has some distance to make up. I can't imagine it's easy out there huffing and puffing on these long distance runs with the freezing cold air entering your lungs. But that's why it's so important to be in shape. And Coach Hawkins talked about that, how he strongly encouraged his athletes, and I'm sure Miller Place and all the other schools did the same thing, to make sure that you keep yourself in shape, because before the last couple of weeks, we were not allowed to hold any sort of formal practice in any school. Here comes the handoff now. Amityville still in the stretch run here of their second lap, well behind. Miller Place has now completed 2 of their handoffs of the baton and are entering the first turn. We'll have to see if getting some fresh legs gives the Warriors a boost here. Here's the handoff for Amityville. They can't just turn on the jets. 2 more laps to make their way around. But Miller Place has opened up quite the lead. Approaching the end of the first lap, both Miller Place athletes are in the stretch, getting set for their second lap. Amityville falling further and further behind. More than a quarter lap behind. Miller Place entering their second lap. Probably hard for you at home to hear, but it is nice to see a couple of the players are allowed to stay out on the field as they are all part of this relay here, and you can hear them encouraging their teammates. Amityville just getting set to start their second lap on the third relay. Miller Place has opened up a half a track lead. Miller Place, hands off again. Amityville still has half a lap to go. In second place, also Miller Place, they're getting set to hand off their baton. Both handoffs have been made for Miller Place. 2 more laps to go. Amityville down the stretch of their second lap, still needing to hand off the baton. It's going to take quite an effort for Amityville to catch up in this one. Amityville makes its handoff. Miller Place rounding far right turn. Heading in the stretch run of their first lap. Their teammate joins them. Amityville, meanwhile, running right past us here right in front of us. Still about a half a lap behind. We'll have to see if the Warriors can make up some ground here. Miller Place on their second lap now. Athletes are running a half a mile each before handing off their batons. Have to conserve strength. But at some point, Amityville is going to have to try to turn up the jets a little bit if they want to try to catch up in this one. Both athletes from Miller Place are on their second lap. Amityville is going to enter the second lap right now. Amityville's closed the gap a little bit, but it is still significant. as Amityville comes out of the first turn. Miller Place is coming out of the second turn and down the stretch. And Miller Place crosses the finish line. Amityville starting to turn on the Jets a little bit, trying to make up some ground. But they will finish in third as Miller Place finishes first and second in the relay. So like Coach Hawkins talked about, it seems as though Amityville off to a really good start with the sprints. With some of the relays, you know, they have some work to do still. But a lot of great athletes and amazing coaching. You would expect them to bounce back pretty quick. I would love to know, you know, what impact, if any, the elements and the lack of practice time other than the last 7 or 8 days or so, what effect that's had on Amityville. But Miller Place with an impressive relay victory. All right, so we're waiting to find out what's coming up next here with the relays. If another group of students are going to be coming out. It's a beautiful cloudless day here on the campus of Amityville Memorial High School, but it is a cold one as we bring you indoor winter track outside in the elements, the Warriors versus the Panthers. First sporting event in almost a year. Well, we're going to have a few interviews coming up in just a moment, so don't go anywhere. As we talk to some of the players on the track team, we're going to step aside just for a minute, and on the other side of the break, you're going to get to hear from the Amityville Warrior track stars themselves right here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General, at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Si está enfermo con el COVID-19 o cree que podría haberlo contraído, tome medidas para ayudar a proteger a las personas para que no se enfermen. Quédese en casa, excepto para buscar atención médica. Llame al médico antes de ir. Apártese de las demás personas que vivan con usted. Use una mascarilla para proteger a los demás. Cúbrase la nariz y la boca con un pañuelo desechable cuando tosa o estornude y lávese las manos inmediatamente. Evite compartir artículos con otras personas de su casa. Esto incluye toallas y sábanas, por ejemplo. Asegúrese de que los platos se laven en agua caliente o en la lavadora automática de platos antes de que alguien más los use. Preste atención a cómo se siente. Si empieza a tener dificultad para respirar o está preocupado por su salud, llame al médico. Para más información visite cdc.gov/coronavirus-es.
Welcome back to Lou Howard Field on the campus of Amityville Memorial High School as we bring you the first live sports action in almost a year. It's winter track, but it's outdoors, but who cares? Because we are just thrilled to be here. We just finished witnessing the 4x800 relay. Amityville coming up a little short, but a valiant effort. And in just a moment, we are going to have a very special surprise as we will get a chance to talk to the 4 members who participated in the 4x800. That's Ben Compare, Kevin Contreras, Shamir Rose, and Brant Rivas. So before we get to them, we still have some events coming up. Actually, that may be it. That's it for today, but an exciting way to finish the day. We saw long jumps, we saw the shot put, and we saw some sprints, victory in the 55. But the final race, the 4x800, that's certainly quite the marathon. And now we're going to bring on our special guest, Ben, Kevin, Shamir, and Bronk. We'll start with Ben Compare. So first of all, I have to ask you, this is not a typical season, whether it's indoor or outdoor. How has the experience been for you getting ready on such short notice for a season that you weren't sure it was going to happen?
It's been very hard to start this the track season in this climate, and all I wish is that it was a little bit warmer so I can improve my times better than last year.
So that was actually my next question. Not only are we dealing with the elements, which you usually don't have to deal with in a winter track season, that's indoors, but you're also dealing with having to wear a mask on your face while you're running. So I'm curious, between the weather and the mask, how much does that impact your ability to be at your best?
It impacts me from trying to breathe, because it's very hard to breathe in a mask. And yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And what about just getting your body prepared to come out here in 30-degree weather and run a half a mile?
It's really hard to stay warm when I'm running, and with all the stuff I have on right now. And, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. And let's go to Kevin. Same thing, Kevin. I'm sure, how excited are you to just be out here competing? I know you guys came up short in the 4x800, but you're back. You didn't know you'd have this chance, and now here you are. How happy are you just to be out here today?
Oh, I'm very excited to be out here, to spend time with my friends out here. It's really difficult in the sense of, this is not the season that we expected nor wanted to have. But, I guess we're all grateful to at least have something training-wise and, meet-wise, because we have love for the sport, so we'd rather suffer out here in the cold, but as long as we're together, then it's worth it.
Now you're out here running in a full sweatsuit with a hood on, so you're carrying extra weight.
Yeah.
How has that impacted your performance today, if at all?
I don't think necessarily the weight is the problem. It's just the cold. I don't know how you could train and be conditioned for this weather. It really takes a big impact in your conditioning. This cold just ruins your lungs and just messes up your whole timing.
So when did you first find out that you would have the opportunity to have a season and compete today?
During the summer, we were having conversations about it, and it was kind of on and off type thing, and we continued training and all, but it wasn't until maybe October that we had an actual answer of saying yes. Everything before that was kind of a rumor. So yeah.
And final question for you, Kevin. What did you do or were you able to do to help prepare yourself and how difficult was it when you don't have your teammates and you don't have the structure of being with your coach like you would preparing for a normal season?
I found it really, really difficult to bring myself to training because I really thought there wasn't going to be a season or it wasn't going to be worth it. So I was very unmotivated to bring myself to training throughout the summer. But once I started hearing rumors and more rumors that we're going to have a season, I was able to bring myself to actually start training and going out to the track more.
Thanks, Kevin. Let's hear from Shamir Rhodes, who also joins us. He also just ran the 4x800. Shamir, same question to you. With the not knowing and having to do things on your own, we know professional athletes, this is something they've had to deal with where they have to train on their own. Not having the structure of a program and your coach and your teammates to push you, how prepared were you going into the season? How much were you able to actually do on your own?
I mean, we all tried to train on our own, but we weren't very motivated to do so since there was no definite answer for when we would be coming back. When we found out we'd be coming back, I'm sure we were all excited, and we're just gonna have to push ourselves to get back in shape for the new season.
So that's interesting. Actually, that would be my next question. I would imagine in a normal year, by the time you have your first meet, you're probably in tip-top shape. How much further do you feel you have to go and you think your teammates to actually get to that point? And do you foresee that being possible by the time your season ends?
We can definitely do it. We just have to push ourselves more for practice. Yeah.
And I know that you had a very short practice, but you've been working very, very hard. I think you've gone 7 days in a row or 7 out of 8 days, something like that. Is that, I know that's more strenuous than you normally would. Has that gotten you to a place where you feel prepared to compete, or is it almost kind of maybe drain some of your energy a little bit as you go out here and take on the Panthers?
No, it definitely helped us because we weren't very used to running before this. So the daily practices, after a few days, we got used to it. Yeah, it helped us a lot.
So you come up short in the 4x800, but what are your personal goals, Shamir, moving forward as you tackle your next 4 meets?
I think I was kind of tired from the race that I just did a few minutes ago, but I think I could push myself at the start of the race I could push myself at the start of the race, yeah.
And what would you say is key? Because early on in that race, you guys were falling behind a little bit, but after the first handoff, it seemed like things really, I don't want to say fell apart, but Miller Place jumped out to a big lead. What are some things that you think you can work on as a group to try to, next time when you come out for the 4x800, get it closer and come away with a win?
I think we could have done better handoffs, but the wind was kind of working against everybody here. We weren't used to it.
And final question for you, Shamir. Miller Place actually competed last week against Islip, and they were also able to practice for the 2 weeks that Amityville was shut down and remote because of COVID-19. Did you have a sense that they were kind of further along in the process than you guys were, and did that give them an advantage over you?
Yeah, it gave a little advantage, but we just have to push ourselves more going along further in the season.
Thanks a lot. Shamir Rose. Branch Rivas, let's bring you on here. So you also participated in the 4x800. We'll talk about a lot of the same things, but first and foremost, again, not knowing what the future was going to hold, you guys are the first sport since last March in New York State, and in many cases, the entire country, to have an opportunity to compete on a high school level again. How exciting is this for you, even though you came up short today in the 4x800, just to be out here competing?
It actually made me feel very appreciative that we were the only sports, but the only downside of it was just the cold. If we were at least in a warmer climate or at least indoors for at least a bit of it, I'd be more excited than we were already now, since as not most of us know, there was a lot of wind today with running and plus the cold too, which messed up our performance.
Now, whenever you're playing somebody in these elements, both sides are dealing with the same sort of thing. I mentioned before, Miller Place had an opportunity to try this out already when they had a meet against Islip a week ago. Do you feel like your experience today, finally getting a chance to see what it's like dealing with these elements and dealing with a short practice season to get yourself ready for a season, do you feel like next week will be a lot easier for you?
For sure, it'd feel easier, but as long as we actually like keep to our training progress and like our mentality, all that, then we'd for sure be better for next week than this week. Cause like as you train, you improve every week or every day, depending on how much you train and how hard you train.
Now, what have you been doing personally, not just to get yourself in shape, but to also try to get yourself used to dealing with these elements?
So we've, as a team, we've all been running outside more, conditioning ourselves to the weather and getting back into the sport since we haven't ran in about like almost a month in like the situation that we're in now.
Before you came out here today, first time in a long time, you weren't sure if you're going to be able to do it. Were there any encouraging or motivating words that either came from one of your coaches or your teammates, or was that just simply not even necessary because you were just so excited to be here?
We've had a lot of motivations, but it was all mainly because of us as a team. We've all learned how to push each other, how to gain experience from each other, and just like work together and just like progress as a team also.
All right, final question for you. What's a personal goal? What's a team goal that you would like to achieve by the time your winter season's over?
Personal goal would be to at least get better in this type of condition overall, since me personally, I'm not used to running in this type of weather. And as a team, I want all of us to at least like improve in at least one category of like each race overall.
Ben Compare, Kevin Contreras, Shamir Rose, and finally, Brank Rivas. Thank you guys so much. Congratulations on finally getting out here and competing, and best of luck for the remainder of your season.
Thank you, you too.
All right, well, the Amityville Warriors have their first meet in a year with their winter track program, and even though they came up short in the 4x800, they were successful in other areas, and as you could hear from the players themselves, they are just excited to be out here competing once again. They're going to get another chance real soon, though, as they're going to go inside, warm up, and talk about their next event. As January 30th at 11 a.m., the Amityville Warriors will welcome in Bayport Blue Point to Lou Howard Field as they battle the elements and get set to do this once again. And you can tell by what these young men are saying that they are saying the right things. You know, this is very difficult to have to get yourself set up so quickly for a season in which you really need to be in good shape for. It's also incredibly difficult when you're at a disadvantage where you don't get to compete in your first meet because of a school closure. You lose out on a couple of weeks of practice. But if there's one thing that these young men seem to have going for them, besides the fact that they are surrounded by legendary coaching, is the fact that they have the right mindset and the right attitude. And I fully expect to see them out here next weekend doing even better than they did this week. So for everybody listening and watching at home, we really appreciate you tuning in today for the first of what will hopefully be many sporting events for the rest of the 2021 school year. Again, we found out winter sports, basketball, and wrestling may get underway in February. Fall sports are slated for March 1st, and the spring sports piggybacking on after that. And all we can do is keep our fingers crossed that COVID-19 doesn't prevent this from happening. But what a fun day. It was cold, but you know what? Who cares? Because everybody was excited to be competing once again. So the Warriors, they come out, they compete against Miller Place. They win some events, some other events they need some improvement in, but they are prepared to move forward with their season. I want to thank everybody involved for making today's broadcast happen. Our athletic director, Evan Farkas. Behind the scenes, Mr. Paul Cimino. I couldn't do it without him. All the students that are a part of the Amityville Broadcasting Network. And, of course, all the athletes for coming out here and putting on a show for us today. I'm Matt Grice. Thanks again so much for tuning in. And we will see you soon right here on the Amityville Broadcasting Network.